Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ben, and today I have for you my wrap-up of my ongoing series, which are mostly fantasy, bunch of sci-fi, maybe some historical fiction, and one other one. So I am not a serial series starter, where I start a bunch of book ones and move around and jump around. I tend to like to binge, and just to read all of a series a lot of the time, or all of the books that are out. I really love getting immersed in one world, not having to do the work and effort of jumping around into getting familiar with other worlds and settings and characters. And so I don't have that many ongoing series right now. I think I have about 18 that I am not caught up with, and then maybe 12 more that I'm waiting on new books to be released in. So 30 series overall that I want to show you which I'm in the middle of, and I'll kind of order them by priority as well. So let's start with my highest priority ones that I've been reading recently or within the past year, and I definitely want to continue along soon. Well, first is the one I am currently continuing, which is the Richard Sharpe series by Bernard Cornwell. That's set during the Napoleonic Wars in the early 1800s. This is Sharpe's Honor, I think book 16 out of 22, but there's a new one coming out next year. But the new one I think goes back in the timeline. And so the main timeline leading up to the end of the Napoleonic Wars, I think he's finished. And so I want to catch up to that soon and have some closure since I've been reading a lot of these books within the past year. And then one I'm very excited to continue, that is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. I read A Game of Thrones a couple months ago and loved it. Can't wait to continue with A Clash of Kings. And now The Expanse by James S. A. Corey. I am on book 8. I kind of took a tiny break as I wait for the last book to be released in paperback soon, and once it's out, I think I'll be resuming and finishing up those last 2 books and a couple of the short stories. Here's one that is really off the radar, which is the Tales of the App series by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So I loved the 10-book Shadows of the App series. He released a bunch of short stories in that world over the years, and he collected them into 4 different volumes. And so I'm on the second one, and I've been enjoying kind of slowly dipping into these and returning to the world. And this is no very high priority, but I definitely want to read everything within this world. Look at this chunker. That is the collected books of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I read the first one, Wizard of Earthsea, this past year and really liked it, and I am really pumped to dig into the other, I think, 5 books, one of them a short story collection maybe. So very high priority for me to continue in Earthsea. And then one that is not very exciting to continue, but I had it on hand, and that is the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne series by Brian Staveley. I'm not even sure what this second trilogy is called. The first trilogy of the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne was a giant meh nothing burger for me. And then the prequel standalone Scrollsworn might have been my worst book of all time. So it kind of soured me on reading more Staveley, but I had this already because I got it on discount, and I'm already familiar. I put in the time with the world and the characters, so I feel like I'll give it a chance. Petrick put out a rave review for this one, and even if it goes terribly, I might have some fun because I'm planning to buddy read it with Read by Kyle sometime next month. So yeah, want to get this one out of the way, whether it ends up redeeming the author and series or it ends up continuing the very poor streak. Now on to series that I am caught up with, or mostly in this case, which is the Sun Eater Saga by Christopher Racchio. I'm caught up on the novels, just finished Ashes of Man and loved it. Racchio just put out news that he is coming to us with 2 more books, which is awesome. So I have 2 more novels to read, and I still have the short stories from this collection and the other collection to go through at my leisure as I maybe miss the world or as I want to get back into it. I read a short story leading up to Ashes of Man, and it got me primed again to fall back into that world, so I might save these for when I'm starting to forget things about the world or want to dive back in before the next book. Now these are pretty much all series that I'm going to be buying their books pre-order, wanting to read on release day. Here we go with the Stormlight Archive, maybe the series I am most emotionally invested in and eager to see this conclusion of the first arc with book 5, maybe sometime late next year. Another of my favorites, the Dresden Files. I had a blast rereading most of the series last year. Can't wait for that to continue. And then The Burning by Evan Winter, Rage of Dragons book 1. And yeah, Lord of Demons I think is the next book, maybe coming out this year. Very pumped for that because book 2 was a huge level up in terms of the depth of character work and relationships. It slowed down a lot in its pacing and got me very excited that this series is going to be something special in total. The Witness trilogy by Steven Erikson. Really liked the book 1, God Is Not Willing, and it's very much the style of Malazan that's my favorite. Focus on the Marines and soldiers. Also, epic cover. I can't wait to see what they produce for the sequels. Mickey 7. I think this was just planned to be a standalone when he wrote it, but it ended up getting picked up by Hollywood, and yeah, it left off in a place where it could continue. So I'm excited that this is going to get a sequel soon by Edward Ashton. This is the Red Winter Chronicles by Ed McDonald. Daughter of Red Winter is book 1. I got very invested in this first book. I think it set up a fantastic fantasy trilogy, I believe. Can't wait for that one. The Unorthodox Chronicles by James J. Butcher. First book is Dead Man's Hand. This set up a fun urban fantasy series that I am actually really itching to continue. So hasn't picked up a big readership yet, but a lot of fun. This one I may get my wish to continue very shortly. That is The Justice of Kings, I think Empire of the Wolf. Not a great series name there. By Richard Swan. And Tyranny of Faith is coming out soon. Loved this book. A real change of pace from the normal epic fantasy. I think it has a lot of depth. Characters I cared about. Yeah, pumped. And maybe one that I'm a little less pumped about, which is the Murderbot series. I enjoyed basically all of these books, but didn't fall in love with any of them or the series. But I will read everything that Martha Wells writes in the series, and I do like the main character, Murderbot. So yeah, nothing too earth-shatteringly great for me, but definitely want to continue. Ones that I don't have physical copies of that I'm doing all on audio are Cradle, which just has one more book to go, and then the Bobiverse series, which it is unclear how long that one can go. I think Dennis E. Taylor mentioned that it could keep on going with the way that it's designed, and that he might just release books in that as he feels the need to. I'm not feeling any great urgency for that series to continue. I thought the first trilogy was a full story and very solid. The last novel maybe dragged a little bit, but I will definitely check out because the audio by Ray Porter is fantastic, just perfect for the tone of those books. All right, now we're getting to the series that I am not caught up with books that are out for various reasons. So here we go with the Dune series by Frank Herbert. I read Dune for the first time just ahead of the movie release, and I liked it a lot. I didn't feel so compelled to continue, but I did want to see where this all went, so I at least want to read the next couple books, Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, I think. Not sure how far I want to go with it, but at least more of the Frank Herbert books. And then a high priority one, that is The Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb. I really like the Farseer trilogy, and I just have not yet been in the mood to pick this one up because it's a massive trilogy with 3 big books, and I know it's going to be involving, and I'm going to always want to get swept up in it, and that time should come soon for me. But Ship of Magic, I can't wait to try. Now this is one on the opposite end of the priority spectrum, which is the rest of the Hyperion Cantos. I read books 1 and 2 about 10 years ago, liked book 1 a lot, didn't love where book 2 left things, so I never felt really interested in continuing, but I have the 2 Endymion books, and this one is for when I have nothing else to read, for a very rainy day when I'm in the mood to return to some cool space opera sci-fi, but I've heard mixed things about this, so yeah, I definitely am not jumping on it. Another one in that same boat is the Rama series by Arthur C. Clarke. I did like Rendezvous with Rama. It felt very much like a satisfying standalone, though. And then there's, I think, 3 sequels that he wrote with Gentry Lee. So I have one friend that really loved the sequels, but they don't get really raved about elsewhere. So yeah, I want to try it out, see what's going on with it, but not a priority. Discworld by Terry Pratchett. I don't know that this series is meant truly for me. I don't read too many purely satirical or humorous books, but I liked Mort, but didn't love it. I have a feeling like the City Watch series is going to work much better. Here's Guards Guards. I definitely want to try all these City Watch books. And here's the Draenei Saga by David Gemmell. I have read the first 2 books, and this is book 3 by pub order, I think, Quest for Lost Heroes. It's 11 books, and there's sub-series and a lot of standalones, so you can jump around in it. But the one I really want to continue with is the Druss prequel. Druss is the older main character from Legend, but I have like 30 of Gemmell's books from used bookstores, but I still yet haven't found the Druss the Legend prequel book that I want to continue with, so I might have to bite the bullet and order that online so I can continue on with the Draenei Saga. Alright, and Pierce Brown's Red Rising Saga. So I absolutely adored the opening trilogy. It ended on such a satisfying note for me, and I loved them so much that I know that this format changed with the sequel trilogy with multi-POV, third person. I've heard it gets darker, and I was worried that that would change my whole experience of something I love so much, and it wasn't complete yet, so I thought I could wait on it, and I am excited to continue, but a little scared, because I just love my baby Red Rising trilogy so much, and I know this is going to change how I feel in one way or another. But yeah, I think I'm going to wait some more until maybe the lead up to the very last book. One series that I might just DNF, but I'm so close to being caught up with this book, that is the Rhaenyra Chronicles by Michael J. Sullivan. I have read 3 of them and have been unimpressed by all 3, bored to tears by the last one, Death of Dulgath. And so I am thinking about just skipping this one. Maybe I'll just get into it a little bit to see what it's like, and maybe it's a step up. But the next one that he has planned, Drumendor, in this series, sounds like it's going to be more of a swashbuckling adventure. So maybe I'll skip this one, but I rarely DNF series, so just having this one hanging over me, I feel like I just want to get it out of the way. One that I'm very excited to continue, that is the Band series by Nicholas Eames. Bloody Rose is book 2, Kings of the Wild was book 1. I liked it, didn't love it. I've never felt too much urgency to continue on with this one, but I think this one actually is supposed to be a little more serious in tone and dramatic, and I think that might actually appeal to me more. So I think this one is a good bet, and not sure when the next book's coming out, though. Here's an interesting series. That's The Siege by K.J. Parker. I liked 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City, but like with Kings of the Wild, didn't love it. It's very humorous in tone, but I liked it enough to want to continue with How to Rule an Empire and Get Away with It, and A Practical Guide to Conquering the World. I love these titles. They're fun. The voice that K.J. Parker uses is fun and clever. It's just dripping with personality, and maybe it prevents me from getting too emotionally invested, but definitely they're engaging, and I want to continue with this for sure. Here's an interesting one for me. That is the Gentleman Bastard sequence by Scott Lynch. I've only read book 1, Lies of Loch Lamora, which I did not particularly love, but it was intermittently engaging for me, and I want to see what happens and how it develops. There's a lot of things that Scott Lynch does well, but overall just didn't get me invested and capture me. But I want to see where this Red Seas Under Red Skies goes. And now that he's publishing again soon with novellas and maybe the next book in the series, it's something I want to try to get back into. All right, here's one. I don't know if I'll ever continue, but I plan to at least try book 2, which is The Two Towers. So the Lord of the Rings films are just precious to me, and it's one of the most important stories to me. I've watched them with my wife, and she loves them too. But when I tried The Fellowship of the Ring, I just could not really vibe with the prose style, the way the story is being told, when I love Peter Jackson's storytelling of that same tale so much. And it's really weird for me to read it in Tolkien's form. And I know it's a pillar of the genre. I have to just power through, give The Two Towers and The Return of the King a read, and be in the right mindset to appreciate it. Not like I'm in the mindset for a modern fantasy tale, but in a different, maybe wiser, older kind of place for me. So I'm going to wait for when I'm in the right mood and headspace. All right, now here's the only semi-nonfiction one on here, which is the My Struggle series by Karl Ove Knausgaard. This is book 6. I've read the first 5, and they are some of the most important reads of my life. It is supposed to be like a nonfiction kind of series of memoirs, and they all jump around in his life, but there's a lot of detail in all these scenes, and I don't think he even calls them nonfiction because there has to be a certain amount of invention of what's going on, but they pretty much read like nonfiction memoirs, and very affecting and impactful. Felt like I was reading a different version of my life if I had grown up in rural Norway a couple decades before. This book, though, is massive, and I know you have to be in the right mood, kind of a slower paced, philosophical kind of mindset to appreciate these books the most. And this is huge, and there's like supposed to be a 300-page kind of essay about Hitler in here. I know Knausgaard was really affected by the mass shooter in Norway who was influenced by Hitler. And so there's a lot going on in this book that I've kind of stayed away for a while. But I want to finish it up because the other books in this have been so good and very worthwhile. And then other series that I probably will not pick up that I've maybe DNF'd for good. That's Book of the Ancestor. I couldn't really get into book 1. I may give that one another try. Series that I've definitely DNF'd are the Ringworld series by Larry Niven. I thought that was the single biggest piece of trash I've ever picked up. Very misogynistic, nothing worthwhile, honestly, not engaging at all. And then there was the Witcher series, which in book 1, which is many people's favorite, or one of their favorites, The Last Wish series of short stories, I was just very bored, so don't think I'm going to continue the Witcher books. And then there's the Lady Astronaut series, which won a lot of awards in a completely unjustifiable series of decisions, I think. That first book was just a massive ripoff of the movie Hidden Figures, and just executed poorly. Just an absolute huge miss for me in an epic way. And then the Tales of Tremaine by R.R. Virdi, the first binding. I slogged through that entire first book. I had not read Name of the Wind, so I couldn't even kind of enjoy seeing how much it ripped off from Rothfuss, but it was just boring and unimpactful with just overblown prose, and yeah, I hated that. I have already unhauled that book and do not plan to continue. So yeah, that is my series wrap-up for all of my ongoing series, or in some cases DNFs. Let me know what you're excited for me to continue with, or anything on here that you also want to go for. And yeah, I'll see you later.